The Epic of King Bimbisara, Karma and Illusion. Welcome to this edition of In-Depth Analysis. Today, we are going to dive into a truly mind-blowing story of reincarnation from the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish Karmasataka. It has a tale filled with pride, absolute power, and cosmic bonds that span across multiple lifetimes in a way that leaves you utterly awestruck. Without further ado, let us jump straight into the story. Ultimately teaching him the ultimate lesson in humility. This suspense sets a genuinely perfect stage for today's tale. Part E, the King's Pride. Let us rewind and head back to the city of Magadha. At that time, the highly revered King Bimbisara was making a grand, public preparation to pay his respects to the Buddha. But guess what? Before he could even set one foot out of the palace gates, the crown that symbolized his supreme power tumbled right off his head and hit the ground. Just as he was filled with doubts and unease, a celestial Devas appeared and told him that this was actually a marvelous omen, but on one strict condition: he had to bring everyone in the kingdom with him. That's right, strictly speaking, even the prisoners in the dungeons had to be brought along on this journey. So, the king obeyed and set off in grand fashion. A massive procession of 100,000 people. Imagine that staggering sight. As King Bimbisara looked back at the ocean-like crowd following him, his ego inflated rapidly. He felt handsome, majestic, and immensely proud of his grand entourage. Believing he was the ultimate power on earth, his pride and self-importance swelled to an extreme. However, the Buddha saw right through his vastly inflated ego. To break through this lens of arrogance, the Buddha employed an exceptionally clever, skillful means. He manifested 500 illusory kings who looked completely identical to King Bimbisara. When the real King Bimbisara arrived on the scene, full of himself, he was completely stunned. He saw 500 identical versions of his majestic self already sitting there, respectfully listening to the Dharma. It was like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. He instantly realized that in the face of true wisdom, his proud worldly pomp was utterly insignificant. Part R, Illusions and Miracles. Having been thoroughly subdued by this grand manifestation, the king's overbearing posture vanished completely. Realizing he wasn't so special after all, he humbly shed his extravagant ornaments, respectfully announced his name, opened his heart, and prepared to receive the profound teachings. At this point, to further spark faith in the crowd, the Buddha asked his disciple Kasyapa to display incredible miraculous powers. Kasyapa levitated high up into the air. Not only that, but he also made his body simultaneously manifest the wonder of water and fire, shooting flames from his upper body while water flowed from his lower body, or vice versa, all while radiating brilliant light in shades of white, red, and blue. This was a vivid demonstration showing the crowd that true power comes from letting go of worldly attachments and altar fire sacrifice rituals, certainly not from an obsession with material things. Taking advantage of the fact that the king and his followers were now completely open-minded, the Buddha presented a core philosophical truth: anatta, non-self. Simply put, all things are impermanent and governed by the law of cause and effect. There is no eternal, fixed, or permanent entity. Immediately after, the Buddha introduced the concept of mamakara, mine-ness, possessiveness. What is mine-ness? It is the false sense of ownership over things outside of oneself, the constant feeling that this belongs to me. The Buddha pointed out that one must break this attachment to escape worldly confusion. Upon hearing this, the king and his vast procession cleared away their doubts instantly, achieving a mind-boggling collective spiritual awakening. Part 3, the monk's inquiry. This enlightenment came so swiftly and thoroughly that the other practitioners present were utterly bewildered. They couldn't help but ask the Buddha, wait a moment, why this specific group of people? How could they instantly comprehend such profound Buddhist teachings and cause the Buddha's renown to spread far and wide? What kind of deep karmic bonds from past lives are at play here? This brings us to our fourth part, Echoes of the Past. Part 4, Echoes of the Past. To answer their question, the Buddha put the timeline back into the distant past. In that ancient era, there was a ruler named King Chen, who had an exceptionally intelligent minister named Fire Protector, later revered as Minister Vasudeva. Minister Vasudeva was second only to the king, and the degree to which people revered him was almost like a deity. Yet, he was a deeply clear-minded individual. He saw through the emptiness and vanity of worldly power, so he decisively requested leave from the king to go into retreat and meditate for 4 months, until a celestial Brahma came down personally to guide him. Brahma told him directly, if you want to attain true liberation, you must sever all human afflictions and impurities, throw away great lies, greed, hatred, ignorance, delusional thinking, and stinginess altogether. Upon hearing this, the minister didn't hesitate for a second and decided to resign from all worldly affairs, giving them up entirely. Part 2, The Urgency of the Present. What followed was a breathtakingly tense negotiation. Naturally, the king did not want to lose such a capable minister, while the minister had already completely seen through the fragility and impermanence of life. This countdown against impermanence was packed with dramatic tension. The king begged desperately, I beg of you, can't you wait 7 years? Wait until I finish handing over the throne, and we can live together. But the minister refused firmly, saying that greed only grows larger with time. They bargained all the way down 6 years, 1 year, 1 month, and even when reduced to 7 days, the minister still felt it was too long, because death is entirely unpredictable. Finally, deeply moved, the king made the decision to stop delaying. It must be today. On this very day, they had to let go of all attachments. Precisely because King Chen and his followers demonstrated such resolute determination on that day to completely drop everything, their karmic destinies became permanently bound together. Let's break down this astonishing correlation. The minister Vasudeva of the past life is the Buddha of today. King Chen of the past life is King Bimbisara today, and those Shivan followers are the Balin, Lin, Devas and citizens who achieved collective enlightenment on the spot. It is a grand karmic loop so perfect it gives you goosebumps. Part 2, Core Insights from the Master. Let's bring this epic tale of cause and effect back to reality and see what profound insights the Master has regarding it. The Master highlighted a crucial detail in their past life. Why did the Buddha only teach them the basic 4 dhyanas and 5 supernatural powers? Because that was the absolute limit of their capacity and readiness at the time. A form of skillful means upaya. Although they acquired supernatural powers, because they hadn't realized non-self, they were still spinning within the illusion of samsara. But today is different. We now have the fortune to directly encounter the ultimate truth that leads to final liberation. Just as the Master gave this thunderous warning, hard is it to encounter such opportunity in hundreds of thousands of eons. Never take the blessings we have right now for granted. If you don't cherish this extraordinarily rare opportunity, once it's lost, you will lose it forever. This brings us to our final question for everyone today. Since we all know that life is so impermanent and unpredictable, just like King Chen initially experienced in the story in your own life, what false attachments to mine-ness and worldly ties are you still fantasizing about waiting 7 years before truly letting go? I hope you can take this question home and give it some real thought. That concludes today's analysis. See you next time.